most sellers think 99% of the time they're going to say no. Price is the most important thing for you. You're never going to win a negotiation based on numbers, and we've got nothing else to work with.
I got to be able to get qualified for another house up here in Nevada, and actually start the process up here. That's the only other. That'd be the only other hang up I have to deal with. Are would you be using like the proceeds of this house to buy the
That's a
new
good
house?
question.
Okay, so that's why you probably were leaning more towards like an all additive cash offer, so you could still be up here for the yeah. And then it wouldn't make sense to like first close on this and then start looking if you want to do it at the same time.
Yeah, so it's good. I mean, I first step is just do the call, right? Like we all this feedback is I want you to take it and implement it, and that's how we learn and we grow. It takes a lot of calls to get good where you're like instinctively know what to ask because you've just done it so much. It's like going to the gym. Eventually you go to the gym so much you know what the right form is, what to eat, what not to eat. I want you to less assuming and more open-ended questions because a lot of times you're closing the gap for you to get a listing opportunity or an appointment because you're assuming like, oh, this is why you need this or this is why you need that. So he's giving you a roadblock, right? I need to buy this other house. Then you need to not ask some discovery questions around that, like what's your time frame, have you started looking, what's going to be your process to be able to move to the next house. Okay, great. Can I make a suggestion? Yeah, so here's what I've done in the past. So it sounds like you need to sell the house to buy the house. That's actually not a problem. We deal with this situation all the time. Typically what we can do is based on your timeline, it's going to take us, around like 30, sometimes even 45 days to close, secure the buyer and close. What I can propose is why don't we explore your options to put the house on the market now? So that way we can actually find a property and sell your house at the same time. And both things happen simultaneously. And I help my sellers do this all the time. It's actually not a problem. Would you be open to having that conversation so we can handle both simultaneously? So he's giving me a problem and I'm letting him know like that's not a big deal. Like from a cash offer standpoint, I call that a roadblock. What's keeping us from moving the sale forward and how can we overcome it? So like the prospect will say, well, I need to find a house. Okay, where are you, what's the area? What are you looking for? Can you buy that house without selling this one? You ask that question, which is great. Or do you need the money from this one and sell the other one? Is it an option to buy that house without selling this one? Most of the time they tell us, yes, I can buy that house. Okay, great, not a problem. But if it becomes a problem, I'm going to try to come up with a solution and present that solution and then get myself back in the game from a sales standpoint. Hey, I need to find a house. That's not a problem. We actually help homeowners in that situation all the time. Can I make a suggestion? Yeah, what if I could get you in touch with a real estate agent in Nevada and they can actually help you find a property while you're in the process of selling your home? That way, at least you've handled one thing. And then at the same time, you're locating that next property and putting a house, putting an offer in place for the next property. If we could do that, like get you in touch with a real estate agent that could help you find a home, like, would you be open to exploring your options to sell now? Pause. Most of the time, they're like, yeah, if you can do that, like, great. There you go. Now, if they give you more pushback, you got to ask some more questions around that and then figure it out. But my job as a salesperson is discovery. Now there's this like iceberg. Can I move, kind of like pivot around the iceberg, move it away, and continue to move the sale forward? Continue to move the sale forward versus making it bigger than it really is. Because me and you know, like, that's not a big deal. We could put his house on the market and help him find another property, and both have to happen at the same time.
Okay, well I appreciate that. Like I'm gonna just review everything. I mean, just out of curiosity, if we did like get like the 300,000, and if we're like gonna get it buy it all cash, all this, is there any room for that? Room for what? Regarding price. Because I gotta make sure I pay off the mortgage on that house and same thing.
What's important about that specific number is the way I would ask that. Because right now you're asking like a kind of like a close-ended versus open-ended question. So I would say like that. I would ask some discovery questions around price, like you built enough rapport to be like, just out of curiosity, how did you even come up with that 300,000? Now, for all of you, be very mindful of asking that too early in the conversation because it can be confrontational. So, what's an example of what not to do? Hey, what's your offer? 500,000. How did you come up with that price? Oh, it's just the price that I want. That's too early in the conversation, and now it becomes like a battle of like, yeah, it's my price versus your price. Now, Adam, he likes you. You built enough rapport with him. With the right tonality, I would ask, hey, just out of curiosity, how did you determine that price? And from a negotiation standpoint, if you're trying to lock it up for a cash deal, a lot of times now the tables are turned and now they're trying to sell you on their price. And a lot of times like you'll see their like what they're thinking doesn't make any sense. Oh, I just want 300,000 because that's what I saw on sale, or because my neighbor sold for 300,000. and then you can get deeper into that and see if the neighbor was updated or not. But now there's like a power shift. Now they're explaining to you their price versus you justifying why you got to offer them 150, for example. So I would have maybe asked, like, just out of curiosity, how did you determine that price? Oh, because of this, this, and this. If you're framing it for a cash offer, you got to kind of frame it around what the cash offer is, right? Hey, with the investor partners that I work with, or if it's you giving the offer, when I do buy properties for cash, it's because I want to buy it, remodel it, and put it right back on the market, right? So there's two things that I can provide. One is the speed, the convenience factor, actually three things. The speed factor, we can close very quickly if you need to, or we can give you flexibility. We can do an extended closing to give you time to find that next property. So be mindful of saying speed, because sometimes speed isn't what they're looking for, but we're very flexible with closing. Just keep it general. We pay all the closing costs, and you don't have to do any repairs, fix anything. And whatever the pain point was, we can help you solve this pain point. In order to provide that, right? We are buying this house to remodel it, resell it on the market. So in order to provide all those things and that convenience, there does have to be an adjustment on price because of that. So being that that's the case, if we could do all these things, realistically, what would be like your rock bottom number for an offer like that? So I'm framing the offer before going back to that. Because right now you just told him, like, are you flexible on price? 99% of the time they're going to say no. But if I frame it around, here's what I'm doing and here's what I'm going to do for you, like, can you work with me? So it's like, I'm doing this for you. Can you do this for me? And if he says, no, I need 300, man, that's going to be really, really tough for a cash offer because of X and X and X. Like, is there any flexibility at all? But now it's different because I've framed the offer. So if you're thinking about it from an agent standpoint, from a listing perspective, when you go on your listing appointment, you tell them, like, here's, are you familiar with how buyers determine price, right? So what they're doing is comparison shopping. They're looking at properties in the area and then they're comparing features and benefits. So before I tell them this is what you can list your house for, I'm framing it around this is how buyers determine the list price. So then it kind of makes sense. And the same is true with a cash offer, because what most sellers think is like, I just want a cash offer, and they think it's going to be market value. That's not a realistic cash offer. Cash offer is, we're coming in, we're going to fix it up, and then we're going to resell it. So that's why a lot of the framework around negotiations is just getting the seller to understand what a cash offer would be. And I can expand if you guys want to. But the key is to frame it around why a cash offer is a cash offer. And then you go for like kind of that price reduction. And at this point, Adam, if he's like, no, I really need 300,000, man, can I just be 100% transparent with you? So the investor partners that I work with, and like most of the investors, they're not going to be able to get to that number because they're looking to buy the house, fix it up, resell it. It does have to be at a price that's way lower than that. So it just doesn't seem like the cash offer is going to be the best fit if that's the number that you need, right? Because it sounds like you definitely want to sell, but is price the most important thing for you? Yes, price is the most important thing for you. Okay, and then now I would pivot to another solution. If it's a creative solution and you want to come in and pitch a creative solution, you can. If it's a listing, it's a listing. But we have to get them to like understand why a cash offer is what it is before we pivot into something else.
With the other house and still have a little bit money going away to where I'm paying for my moving costs and putting pretty much a good down payment on the next house. Got it. Okay, so it makes sense. So you're looking around that, and have you already got it? I'm not going extremely high. I'm kind of more towards towards the bottom of where the market prices are going right now. Yeah, you're not looking to give.
What I would get good to, Adam, is go through some Novation training, because if it's discounted, but it's not discounted enough for a cash offer, but it might be discounted enough for Novation, if I can bridge that gap, then I'm going to go into like a sequence of getting them down on price. If I can make it work as an Novation. And if that sequence doesn't get me to where I need to be for the numbers to work, then I'm going to transition into another offering. So do you know what the value is of the house? Does he want exactly market value, or is he a little bit under market value?
I think the house is like for 350 and he wants 300.
Maybe you could come down and make it work on an Novation. But the challenge here that I'm struggling is that I don't know what the pain point is. So if I don't have enough to work with, then it just becomes about numbers. So if you had some distress pain point that you could work with here, maybe you gathered it in the previous call. But as soon as we get off the phone, forget what happened even yesterday, right? We got to put them back into some sort of emotional state, talking about what's important. So if he told you right now, my dad is really sick and I want to be closer to my dad and like, man, what's going on? Then I could be like, if we could take care of this and this and help you get closer to your dad, do you is it making sense? Like without that, all we've got is numbers. And we're really never gonna win a negotiation based on numbers and we've got nothing else to work with.
Put away, you want to price it fair where it makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, I understand you guys have to adhere with about 60,000 off the top just to for any if there was any repairs or anything needed, which I've already kind of figured out because my behind this house appraised
It may be a good novation, Adam.
market right now. The side point out there where the house they're selling is around 500 something. I don't remember off the top of my house, top of my head.
It's the second house.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're saying everything right, and I appreciate you're gonna.
Yeah, I never agree with them on anything. Like I listen, so there's a difference between like acknowledging what they're saying versus agreeing. One of our sales guys struggled with this for a really long time where he would compliment their house a lot. Like, oh, you've got a really nice house. You've got a great house. No, I'm never complimenting their house. The only time where I do it is if I'm using it strategically to pivot to a listing or like a creative offering. So let's say they say my house is super nice, it's updated, I've done everything. If I've established that it's not going to be a cash deal, I'm like, look, can I be honest with you? Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've updated your house. It's in perfect condition. Like, it doesn't seem like the cash offer is going to come even remotely close to where you want to be. The buyer that's going to pay the most is someone that's going to appreciate all those updates you've done to the house and how nice it is. So at that point, I'm agreeing with them and complimenting them, but only because it serves my kind of end goal. But at this point, it doesn't help you because you're either trying to negotiate to get a deal done or you're trying to pivot to a listing, but it's not clear what we're doing, right? So if you wanted to come and lock it up as a cash deal or an ovation, you're agreeing with him so much that it's like not going to help you with your negotiations. Anytime we're negotiating, we got to be stoic. Everything they say, we could say, thank you for sharing that. Oh, I see where you're coming from. Okay. Okay. Especially when it's a price thing. All I say is like, I hear you. Thank you for sharing that. But I don't say like, yeah, you're right. Your neighbor sold for 500, so your house is worth 500. So I would keep it very like nonchalant, matter of fact, and they like you more. The reality with prospects is the more we want them to like us and we want to like be super nice and people please, the less they like us. How we really build rapport and connection with them is by asking really great questions and listening. And a lot of times the fact that we're acknowledging what they just said and maybe repeating it back to them, that's where the connection happens versus like, oh, your house is great. You have a really nice house. Yeah. I like your backyard.
Understand that everybody has to make some money. We're not all about volume. Okay.
Plus now the mortgage rates have gone down, so now people are going to start buying again.
Yeah. We just there's also the supply.
Okay, I want to see what the resolution of the call. So one thing that's really important is how we start the call, right? How we create the authority and like the framework of what we're going to talk about, but how we end the call is really important. So what are the next steps? I always try to leave every call with the next steps, even if they're not ready. Like, hey, I'm not ready today. When are you going to be ready? And then I'm like, hey, here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to call you X date to do this or to do that. And I'm always kind of directing the conversation of what's going to happen next.
Somewhere close to that price range and it'll be all cash and that's definitely something you would consider. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as and on top of that, as long as I get the offer and all of a sudden it just all of a sudden, little things all of a sudden brings down the price. Like I can't do that.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's why we always like to to make it stronger is to take a look at the property, versus just going on photos. So that's what we never know what's going inside. So if you want, before we can give an a range, and once we get clarity of that, we can take a look at the place.
Yeah.
Before we
That's all I'm doing at this point because I can't. Like I said, I'm not even there right now. So
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but once you find somebody you want them to take a look, and then from there on, you'll move forward. Okay. Well, look, I know you got some food and you're going back to right. A drink. I'm sorry, a drink, and then you're going to meet your pick up your daughter. What I can do is I can do a little bit more analysis to make sure we're in that.
Okay. I want to listen to the end of the call to see where we end it. Because you've got this call, and you can come back and save it. If you have like a call where you're like, man, I didn't do that well, you can always call them back and be like, hey, I was actually thinking about the conversation we had that and dive into whatever it is that you want to talk about.
A drink and then you're going to meet pick up your daughter. What I can do is like I can do a little bit more of analysis to making sure we're in that price range and get back with you.
Okay.
Because I know you're taking offers. Like, when would be a better time to reconnect with you, Robert?
You can reconnect within a couple days if you want.
Okay, within a couple of days, perfect. We'll work on that, and if when we get closer, we'll set up the next steps then. So
Okay.
Let's go, Adam. I appreciate you for submitting the call. Just making the call is honestly a win. And what I want you to know is that it's just repetition. That's it. Where it becomes automatic. Like I've heard what's your offer so many times that I like in my sleep I can answer that. But it's only because I've done so many of these calls. So what you have to get really good at is just being okay with like that awkward feeling of like I don't know what to ask, because the more you do these calls, the easier it gets and the more you know what to ask. So what I would do here, Adam, because you've still got an opportunity here, one, you can either submit it to the JVs and I can give them a call and help you navigate it. Or two, you can just call them on your own and be like, hey, look, I was actually thinking about the conversation that we had. And I know that you're not here right now, but that's actually not a problem. I have investor partners that I work with that what I'd like to do is I can just gather all the condition information, send the information over to them. They can do an analysis because they buy a lot of properties in this area and they pretty much know what they're able to pay for the property. Are you open to having that conversation? Yeah. If they did look at it and they gave me back a number that was like workable for you, would you be open to selling the property if the number made sense for you? Like, would you be open to moving forward? Well, I need to find this other property. Okay, how much time do you think you need to find that next property? Like 60 days. What if I could get them to, instead of close in 30 days, close in 60 days? That way you've got plenty of time to find the next property. Would you be open to moving forward and selling if we could handle that and give you that time? Well, maybe. So, like, that's kind of like how I'm moving all his roadblocks out of the way and trying to push the sale forward. If he's like, no, I don't want to until I do this and that, but you've tried everything, then, like, you just got to kind of roll with the punches. But I wouldn't make seeing the house a thing, because you could either do virtual appointments, and now it's different when you've actually done a virtual appointment, I feel, because now there's some sort of like they've seen you and they've connected with you. Or you could just do a cash offer over the phone. Or here you could have disqualified from cash and gone straight to the listing appointment if you acknowledge that like it's not going to be a cash opportunity. But some really great things is like I can tell that you're in it and you're like trying to figure out what the next best question is. Print out the process script, Adam, and go through it. Record yourself going through it and practice it a couple different times. Especially the part where we transition into price, like what the asking price is and all of that. And then what I would have done here from like an agent standpoint is you can always anchor out of the cash offer and transition back to listing. So in my script here it says it. Hey Tom, I know that, just to give you how to script it out, I know that you wanted to explore the cash offer option. I'm actually just exploring in the area to have an idea what a realistic like cash offer would be for an investor. I'm embarrassed to even share with you what I'm seeing, Tom. Oh, Adam, what are you seeing? That. Yeah, I don't want you to get upset at me, but I am seeing investors buying properties around this area. Pause. Really low anchor, 50% of this estimate. That's way too low. I'll never take that. Blah, 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 blah. Hey, no problem. I hear you. And I have, a ton of investor partners, so I'm happy to explore different options for you. I do know that the way they buy these houses is this way, and then you get into that sequence. Realistically, if they took care of this, this, and this, and this, and this, what would be like your rock bottom number? The lowest I would take on this is 300 because of this, and this. Okay, so now you've got your answer. Now it's up to you to decide. Is there enough pain point where I want to bring them down on price even further and maybe do a novation because I've got a little bit of room? If there's not enough pain point, then I'm just going to pivot out to a listing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense, and I like how you're never the bad guy. You put say, hey, it's not me, it's the investors, it's like the higher authority. You're playing that card, and it just keeps you on the same table as the seller.
Always.
So, like, yeah.
Always. I am the investor, right? So some of you are investors, some of you are agents. So as an agent, you don't want to be the bad guy because you always want to have an in so you can come back and do the listing. As an investor, if you're the one that's giving the offers and locking up the deals, you also don't want to be the bad guy because when you're negotiating, it's always easier to be like, come up with an imaginary partner, guys, whoever it is. Like Tom here, he's sitting in the back office, like, he's hard. Like the market with everything that's going on right now, like I'm trying really hard to get this approved for you, but like I really just get comfortable with that. And it's really awkward in the beginning. So the more you guys practice it, the more natural it's gonna feel. But that's where the magic happens. It feels a little bit like BS to you in this moment when you guys are practicing it. But if you get your tonality right, it's gonna start to come off very genuine and very cool. So your investor is like this imaginary person, but it's you and the seller against this guy versus you against the seller. Because how much more difficult is it if you're having to be like, well, I can only pay you 150, and then they're like, screw you, Adam, don't ever call me again. Versus like, look, I've got this partner here, Tom. You know, Tom's a hard ass, and like, you know, I've gone back and forth with him, and all he can pay is this much. So it's always easier to do that. And the same process is true with agents. Like if you guys are investors and are just looking for deals directly with agents, you can use the same framework. Like, hey, I have to go back to my partners. Or if you're calling wholesalers directly to try to lock up deals from wholesalers, you can use the exact same thing. Like the principles are the same. Once you learn them, you can apply it to everything. I use this for everything and anything I do in my life right now. All right, let's open it up for questions, guys. Thank you, Adam. Guys, get your calls ready. Hopefully, this was helpful. What feedback did you receive, Adam? Because I want to make sure you internalize it. What are some things that you're going to take and implement in the next couple calls that you do?
A few things I think like the two that I need to work on more instead of agreeing is I have to acknowledge. I didn't even realize I was doing that, but that's something I got to work on. Having and instead of assuming, I didn't even realize I assumed. I got to work on more open-ended questions, like and then as they say, like get more clarity. Like really, like don't let them go. Really get understanding of what they want. So I think those are like the three main things that I can really work on. That will help the sales process, whichever way it will be. So I'm still learning, you know.
Love that. Those are some really great takeaways. Yeah, be mindful not to overly want to please the prospect and agree on everything that they say. Because at the end of the day, you're a neutral party, right? Whether you're doing the cash offer, you're doing the listing. What I it's to learn sales, right? Like one little tip that I taught myself is anything they say, just ask an open-ended question around that. Anything they say, ask an open-ended question around that. And that's the flow of the conversation. And you have to practice that in your day-to-day activities till it becomes ingrained. So like let's say I ask you, practice this with like your significant other, your family. How was your day? Oh, it was good. Oh, nice. Versus it was good. Tell me a little bit more about that. What about it was good? The same is true in your sales conversations with prospects. Once you develop the habit of asking deeper questions, then when you're in that conversation with the prospect, naturally it's going to come off because it's just a part of like how you talk pretty much. So practice that on the day-to-day basis, and next time you're in a call with a seller and they start telling you all these great things about their house, just say, okay, thank you for sharing that. That's it. And ask another question. You're a rock star, Adam. Very proud of you. All right, we got some more questions. What's up, Dan?
I lost a deal because she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna talk to other investors," and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna call her bluff," because like I feel like I was at like the max that I could offer, so I was like, "All right, whatever." It turns out she did go with somebody else who offered a little bit more than me. Um, so what's your go-to when they're like, "Well, I understand where you're coming from, but I want to talk to a few other investors, or I have another investor I want to talk to first."
Yeah, so my question would be, did you ask about that before it was time to present the offer?
No, it came up after I presented the offer.
Did you ask? Because if you follow the script, a lot of objections we can overcome by just asking it before it becomes an objection. So
Okay.
you want to simplify the sales process and make it easier. Like I hate once I give the offer for like the attorney to come up or the husband or whatever. So in that portion where we're talking about other options, and it's really important that you ask about other offers because that could help you eliminate that. So this portion here, guys, the roadblocks portion, is where the magic happens, because here every objection that's going to come up, I'm bringing it up here. So, is there anyone else that you need to talk to first before making the decision to sell the property? The reason I ask is because a lot of people have a significant family member, an attorney. Is there anything you need to figure out prior to closing? Other than talking to us, what other options have you considered? Have you received any offers? This here, Dan, you can't ever skip, because you can handle this before. And then let's say they tell you, I've got an offer for 270. Then I get into that sequence and the objection handler is here. So practice this, Dan. Because their objections you'll see is like initial objections, objections during the call, objections after the offer. So I have a portion where I just go over what happens. Let me see. So here I'm giving you like 2 or 3 different ways that you can handle it. So I would, if it comes up before, I would ask some discovery questions around it. What was the offer? A lot of times we don't want to ask what the offer is, but some prospects are just like an open book. Well, oh, okay. What did they offer? Just say it like very matter of fact. Oh, they offered 270. Really? And what's the reason you didn't move forward with that offer? This, and that. Like there's something about that offer where they didn't feel 100% comfortable with them. Well, I'm just looking to get the highest offer. Okay, that's understandable. So other than like the specific number that you have in mind, what else is important for you? What else are you looking for in that offer that you decide to move forward? Where I'm just looking for the highest offer. If you acknowledge that price is the only thing, because what I'm trying to do first, Dan, is figure out if I can create uncertainty or doubt around that other offer.